Keep that vibe. Rubber side down.
You right, ladies and gents. Triumph very kindly lent me this Tiger 800 XRC for one of my 765s being serviced. So I thought I'd show you a little bit around the bike. This is the low ride height version and it's bloody lovely. Yes, I'm going to go into some little bits and bobs as I ride along with the bike, some criticisms as well as some niceties, but just going to give you a little show around and then we'll get riding. So this particular one comes with the knuckle guards and a top box. I'm not sure if that's a standard can on it or whether that's a aftermarket jobby. It's quite quiet compared to my 765, but that's got a Yoshi and that is quite fruity. It's got engine guards on it, which I'm guessing are an aftermarket accessory, or at least a Triumph accessory, and the belly pan as well, but I imagine with it being an adventure style bike that is pretty standard. It comes with a very similar dash to what's on the 765. What the 765 doesn't have is a screen and a really wide comfy seat. So while riding along just at a sedate pace, this bike is lovely. It's very nicely mannered. The big wide and high bars make it incredibly comfortable on the wrists, and the screen takes you out of the wind blast. And that's at sedate paces. That's all dandy. The screen is adjustable, that goes up and down. You can have it there or up there or in betweens. I'm a short arse, so I may as well stay down low, and that sort of stays out of your view as well because the camera is slightly lower than my eye height. The engine is obviously it's the 800 or 765 engine, so it's a beast of an engine. It's got different gearing as it seems to be at a different rev range for the same speeds. As you can see, it's got a real nip of speed when you need it, and you can really throw it around using your body weight and the big wide bars. A lot more leverage over these bars compared to the ones fitted on the 765. I don't know whether the knuckle guards are a standard fitment with the bike. You'll have to check that from the Triumph brochures yourselves. This isn't really a proper review, it's just a quick first look at the bike, as I was so very kindly loaned this for a couple of days while my bike was in for its service. There's certainly no problem with the handling on this bike. I'm not going to try and do it here because it's a bit countrified and it will unsettle the bike a little bit, but the ground clearance is very low. On my ride back home from the dealerships on the bike, I did find I ground out the foot pegs several times in situations where I really wouldn't have expected to have ground out foot pegs. And the trouble with that is because it's the low ride height version and it's an adventure bike, it's quite chunky being an adventure bike, but being low, they've just robbed all that ground clearance that this bike would have had. I'm actually having to censor this quite a lot. This has got such a turn of speed. It's so very easy to find yourself doing a lot more on the number chart than you were expecting to be doing at that particular time. It's very playful. Had I been in a lower gear, that would have easily lifted the front wheel then. I really like it, but the trouble is, with it being an adventure bike and it having that low seat height, they've just destroyed its ground clearance, and it means that I'm actually a bit concerned about getting too spirited along country roads, especially the bumpy ones like this. Not that the suspension couldn't handle it, but if you're going around a corner and that foot peg grounds out, which it does quite easily, it could very easily upset my balance, knock my foot off the peg potentially. I don't think it's dangerous, I just think I'm possibly riding it like a supermoto as opposed to an adventure bike, and I think the majority of people that buy adventure bikes aren't doing so to be a hooligan. It's not that kind of a bike, it's more of a practical thing. So I'm not complaining too much about the ground clearance issue, because the people that would buy this bike, I don't think it would be too much of an issue for. And again, that's another problem with adventure bikes, is that 90% of them aren't actually adventured, and in that situation this would be absolutely perfect for it. But if you were going to take this off-road, that ground clearance issue could be a problem. I've not ridden any other adventure bikes to be able to compare this, so please take everything I say here with a pinch of salt. Adventure bikes aren't the style of bike I would normally look at. Looked like an ex-police bike there, with someone that wanted to be an ex-policeman. I don't understand that. Each to their own though. So what else with the bike? It's incredibly comfortable, although around my thighs it's got a seam on the plastic, and that kind of digs in a little bit when I'm trying to grip the tank with my knees. This bit here, I don't know if you can see that, that digs into your legs, but that's a double-edged sword. I mean, although I don't like it for comfort, it's actually great because it gives you a good grip on that part of the bike. So if you're getting enthusiastic, it keeps your legs locked in tight without wobbling around and sliding around. So I quite like that, as well as quite dislike that. I love the fact that you can adjust the screen. A comment as opposed to anything else, because it's probably just how the bikes have been set up, is that the clutch on this, the bite point is in a massively different place than it is on my street triple. Down here it's much closer to the bars where you're at the biting point, whereas on the street triple it's much closer to fully open, or with the lever released. I prefer it how it is on here, but that's possibly just because I'm sort of set in my ways with how the Guzzi I've got and the KTM I've got are set up. So not necessarily a fair criticism, and like I say, it's more of an observation. If I was going to be using a bike like this for commuting, so up the A3 and into London, not that I'd ever ride a Triumph in London, then it would probably be absolutely lovely for it, because you're just pootling along, cut through your traffic as best as you can, but you're not doing it at the rush at Mach 10 like you would do if you're on a Sunday scratch. And again, this isn't really a scratching bike, although it does have the handling to do it, it just doesn't have the ground clearance. Talking of the levers are both adjustable for span, and this one here is set on 4, which is the maximum shorty position for the span, and that's great. It does cater for all sorts of hand shapes and sizes, and I think that's really nice to do that as without it being a factory option, or without it being something that you have to do as an aftermarket part. The trouble is if you want to brake hard on this thing and you're doing a 2-finger brake job, which is how I normally do it, it means that the lever comes incredibly close back to the bar and potentially traps your fingers behind it, which in turn reduces the amount of breakage that you can get from there. So if you are having it with the span on 4 and you're needing to brake in a hurry, then I suggest getting your fingers out from behind it and going for a 4-finger brake. The brake is lovely, it's very progressive, but this is quite a big bike, and you do want to have the confidence that it's going to haul up in time. The rear brake works fine, and the ABS cuts in as you would predict it to, so you can't really lock the rear up. I'm assuming this has got some kind of switchable ABS. It's got lots of other modes, it's even got cruise control, which is quite a nice thing. I don't know whether this will have like an off-road type ABS where you keep your front on and you lose your rear, or like the supermoto mode on the KTMs, because sometimes you actually want to be able to lock the rear up. Something I quite like is that these bikes come with all the keys you would ever need for the baggage systems that are available on the bike. So it comes with the lock set for the bike, but then comes with an extra 3 barrels in case you want to fit Triumph luggage, and that means that all your locks operate off the same key. And I think that's just a nice bit of attention to detail, and it saves all that faffery of having millions of keys when you're riding. I hate having clutter when I'm out on the bike, but then I guess if you've got 3 different boxes on the back, then you can afford to have a little bit of clutter, because you've got all that space to shove it in. I don't like bags, I don't like rucksacks, I don't like these pannier things on any of the style of bikes that I ride, so that leaves me kind of restricted to my pockets. Being a fan of naked bikes, I am not used to having a screen in front of me. I don't dislike having a screen in front of me, I just don't think it's the best design thing for long distance touring, or at least it isn't for someone my height and shape. In my head I'm getting an awful lot of buffeting. I've already done a previous record of this video and it sort of went a bit wrong, my batteries ran out, and the audio that was received on the camera wasn't actually too bad at the speeds I was playing at, but in my head it is really noisy. Now the crash helmet I've got isn't a particularly quiet one, it's a very lightweight carbon fibre jobby, and one of the ways they save weight is by not putting much in the way of noise deadening stuff in them, which isn't a problem at all if you've got earplugs in, or a bike that's a little bit quieter on the old wind front. But this one is quite noisy. And the thing is, it's an adventure crash helmet that I've got, so it's quite likely to be a style of crash helmet I'd be considering on a bike like this. I have taken the peak off, which reduces the wind noise a bit, so I'd hate to think how it would be if I still had the peak on. Again, this is all down to my personal situation, and the speeds I ride at compared to the speeds you'd ride at, and your riding position versus the screen position, how far you sit forward or back or stuff like that, putting yourself in cleaner air. It's definitely got a turn of speed, that is for sure. I think the gearing on this would possibly suit adventure riding, where there is an opportunity for you to go into some more gravelly, dusty stuff, as it does seem to be a little bit lower in the revs at times. It's definitely not as fast on the top end as the Street Triple, and I don't know whether that's a different cam profile, whatever, or how they've set the maps up on them. I really don't know that sort of stuff. This has the same adjustable angle on the dashboard, which is a nice touch. I'm imagining that does make it a slightly larger unit though, as it's got all that space behind it for it to be able to move into. But it's attention to detail, and I think that's one of the things that sets the brand Triumph apart from a lot of the others, is that they do take these things into consideration of the different ride heights of the people that are riding their products. Now, they don't do it for each bike that they sell, but they do it for the most popular versions of each bike that they sell, and I think that's really cool. It does allow us stumpier riders the flexibility to ride different machinery. I just think that if you are looking at an adventure bike, quite possibly if you're short and can't deal with being short, then maybe it's the wrong type of bike, because you need ground clearance if you're going to do any dirty, dusty, mucky, muddy stuff. And to be honest, on this, if you want to go spirited around these bends, I bet I could ground my foot pegs out on this, just going around this corner here. I'd possibly not be doing the speed limit doing that. But you get what I'm saying. Now, this has been an absolutely wonderful bike to be loaned, and I don't think that it's normal that Triumph would lend a bike like this, that's so new to the range, as a demo for 3 days effectively. I took the bike down to Destination Triumph on Wednesday, they serviced it on Thursday, and it's Friday now for me to go and pick it up. So yes, a massive thanks to Destination Triumph for loaning me this, as opposed to one of their bog standard loan bikes. It is appreciated, and I like the fact that they are doing the extra legs for me to make me feel like a valued customer. Other dealerships I've used recently for new bike purchases, no names mentioned, have been a little bit lacking, I found, in the care that they offer customers that have parted with their cash with them. Customer service to me is absolutely key, especially with vehicles. You part with so much money, or commit to paying back so much money over a period of time, and you get such high depreciation on second-hand motorcycles. So if the dealership doesn't treat you like you are special, like you are the most important thing to them, then they're failing you. And I really, really hope that over time that the dealerships actually learn to understand this. I'm not on about money off, I'm on about how you get treated as a customer. You've got to feel respected in a place that you're handing over your money. And this isn't an advert for Destination Triumph, it's far from it. But so far from what I've seen, even though we've had some issues, they've actually got it. They understand that a customer needs to feel important, they need to feel valued. Without getting all smushy and kissing their backsides any further, because that's not what this video is about. It really is just an overview of this bike, and I don't know anything about it other than the fact that it's quite comfy. The brake lever goes back too far on the closest setting. The clutch lever bites in a nicer place than it does on my street triple, and the foot pegs hit the deck if you go around a corner in a hurry. Other than that, this bike's bloody awesome, and I do recommend, whether you're a toolie or a shorty, that you give one a try, see if you like it. It's certainly opened my eyes a little bit, not that I've taken it adventurising or anything like that, but it has opened my eyes to the possibilities of a more practical motorcycle. I'm still not a person for windscreens. Every single bike I've had which has had a windscreen has just had that little bit of buffeting and wind noise, so I just don't like them. It means over distance you get a bit tired if you're trying to go fast, but just down the pace a little bit and then you're absolutely dandy. I'm planning on a trip on my 765 at some point, down to Spain or something like that. Don't know when, it all depends on money and things. But it hasn't got a fairing, and that's absolutely fine. I did it on my Guzzi, that hasn't got a fairing, it's absolutely fine. As long as you're sub 100 mile an hour, you're dandy. Absolutely golden. Yes. Try one of these out, they're fun. I'm terrible at this review log, aren't I? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, even if it wasn't particularly as informed or professional as a lot of ride reports or reviews or first looks or anything like that are. It's just the crap that's going around my brain while I ride on a bike that I've been very kindly loaned. And I like it. I like this bike, but I wouldn't buy one. And it does that. It filters really, really nicely. Anyhow, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you didn't, give it a little thumbs down. It's all good, I'm fine with that. But whatever you do, please drop in a comment. Let me know what it was you liked and what it was you didn't. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to do like those big old professional reviews that you see from people like Chase on Two Wheels. I'm not saying the information you get from all of them is necessarily any better than you're getting from me, but they do put a far more polished thing together than I'm ever going to be able to do. But you've got to keep it real. The majority of people stick their jeans on and their leather jacket, throw their leg over a bike, and they just want what they get on to work, to do the things that they need it to do. And this sort of does that, unless you want to go off-road. Anyway, right, bye, take care, fuck off, and all that crap. You ride safe, take care, and I'll catch you all in the next one. By the way, the mirrors are great. Bye for now.
Keep that bar. Drop a sign down. You know, you gotta keep that bar. Rubber sign down.